This list hit rank 1. It is an incredibly intricate and low to the ground Invisible Woman First Steps list that has a ton of interesting stuff to talk about. So to bring all of that to you, I interviewed the man who hit rank 1 with it, Lowell. And this is the list. We're going to be talking about it in the context of what is currently good in it. My current build of the list actually changes as I have the conversation with him. Coming into this video, I had a Copycat and a Kate Bishop in there. Coming out of this video, I think I would be running basically this exact list, but with Kate Bishop over Mercury and with Ghost Spider over Spider Ham. But largely, the point is the other 9 or 10 cards that are making up this list and allowing it to police the metagame. So with that said, let's jump into the interview with rank 1 player Lowell. I would be remiss though if I didn't mention that this deck is the brainchild of SafetyBlade. He's been working on it for multiple months through different metagames, iteration after iteration, so huge shout out to him. And this is Lowell, the player who hit rank 1 with the deck, and this is his version of the deck. And one of the key things that you'll understand about this deck is that it's much more of a package than it is a deck in and of itself. I have a different build of it. SafetyBlade, who sort of originated the concept, has a different build of it. And Lowell has his specific build of it, which is what we're going to be talking about alongside some of the other builds and customizations you can make to this general shell. So, Lowell, welcome to the channel. What is the basic instinct that you have if you want to tell someone what this deck is about in like 30 seconds or less? What is your message to them?
Okay, so first, thanks for having me. It's just about fair play, basically. It's you force everyone against you to, not do the thing, because all the big things that just destroy you on points, you're preventing them, bar 1 or 2 that we'll discuss later, but those you just retreat, whatever. And on normal points, like your point distribution is not that easy to predict. And yeah, you win fairly,
So this is a deck that has a bunch of silver bullet tech cards, right? Your Stardust for your Hela and Ghost Rider. There's Mobius for people who are doing anything related to discounts like Mr. Negative and Sarah. But there are going to be matchups where you just don't have the right tech card because you don't have any of the reactive tech cards. What is it about this shell that lends itself to proactive tech in this way? Is it just you think this is the best shell for proactive tech in this metagame? Those cards are really important right now. Or let's say there's a metagame where the most important tech cards are like Enchantress and Rogue. Can this deck support those as well? Or is it mostly about the proactive ones?
Okay, so for me, the shell is mostly about proactive tech. I hate reactive tech. I'd rather ask questions than, require answers. And that's what the deck does. Could it lend itself to, Rogue? Sure, it's a 3 cost. It's fine. Enchantress, I don't think so. It's going to be too expensive. And it will go against, some of your stuff, mostly Mobius and so on. And it will need to take the Stardust slot, which is a big no-no right now. I think Stardust is one of the best 5 cards in the game. So no, for me, yeah, it's definitely more of a proactive tech deck. What makes it work is that most of your points dodge reactive tech, and proactive tech doesn't do much against it. And yeah, anyway, regarding reactive tech, Ghost isn't real. It cannot hurt you. I think I've seen it once, since Tuesday, so, doesn't matter. But yeah, I think that answers the question.
Absolutely does. There is one card that sort of routinely ruins my life when I play this deck. And it does feel like the kind of card where it's like, if this is a big part of the meta, we are in trouble. And that card is Killmonger, where, yes, you have a lot of ways to get points in here, but you do kind of rely on those 1-drops to maintain priority in order to get your tech down a lot of the time. And so some of the time what'll happen is I'll run into a Killmonger and it's like, okay, this is a Sarah Tech deck. Even with the Mobius, they might just be able to have more points than me if I've invested in Black Cat, if I've invested in Hydra Bob. What is it that, because one of my heuristics is typically I don't want to have too much invested in these one drops. And this deck definitely does invest a lot in these one drops because it needs them, especially if you were to say put Fantasticar in here, to be big point contributors to winning lanes. And it doesn't win lanes by a lot. It usually wins lanes by a pretty small amount. So when I saw this deck, I was like, okay, the good news for this deck is I don't currently have a good Killmonger mid-range deck that's in the same niche, but is doing Killmonger stuff. The bad news is if that does happen, I feel like I'm pretty worried. Are you also worried, or am I over-indexing for Killmonger here?
It depends. If you had asked me that 2 days ago, I would have been maybe agreeing with you. But yesterday, like, my day was 50% Killmongers. So I kind of had to learn to adapt to it. I would say before the nerfs, because, okay, to be clear, this deck was much stronger like 2 weeks ago or so, before the Fantasticar nerf. But in a metagame where a lot of other decks were stronger, so like comparatively, I don't think it lost power compared to the rest of the meta. But then, yes, you would have needed it because you want the extra 2 points on either Bob, on Black Cat, and so on. Right now, I would say the only one drop that I play no matter what before I can identify what I'm playing against is Spider Ham, because I'll always get to use it. But more and more, let's say yesterday, it was kind of destroy bootcamp because of the auto location Olympia. Everyone was playing decks that do the thing because you're going to draw everything, right? And that meant a lot of destroy, apparently. I think it was a pretty bad pick, all things considered, but so every game I had to face Killmonger, basically. So most of the time, I would never play any one drop that's not Spider Ham because I would just be feeding the null in the end, which we don't want. But to me, the main thing is that I would only drop them before the Killmonger if it's enabling Athena proc. Then yes, I will take the risk. Well, or, and this is the ideal scenario, doesn't work for Black Cat, but works for the other two, is if you get a Surge proc, having the 0 cost in hand, that's game changer. For reasons that we'll get into later about how to get points with Avok and so on. But now, no, I don't think Killmonger is like the end of the world because I'm confident enough that you can win without the points of the one drops.
Yeah, when you talk about the previous context of this deck and how it was stronger, I think it's also worth talking about the other decks in its cohort that were stronger, because a lot of the other decks in its cohort were like these Killmonger, Luna Snow mid-range decks, and those were a horrible matchup, and they basically don't exist right now for reasons I haven't fully put together. I think people are just trying new stuff, maybe, but those felt like, okay, if I had the choice of one side of this matchup, I would take the mid-range deck that is playing like Stardust, Mobius, Killmonger over this. But that mid-range deck doesn't really exist anymore because it's harder for those decks to be Stardust, Mobius decks. So you end up with this as the Stardust, Mobius deck. Onto the card-by-card breakdown. We're going to do things a little bit differently here because this is a deck that has a lot of fungibility to it. There's a lot of cards that go in and out. There's a lot of replacements that are currently being made. So we're going to start with cards that are core to the archetype that you cannot play the archetype without. And then we're going to talk about the ways in which you can go in and out with some other cards. Core card number 1 is Hydra Bob. Literally just a 1/4 with an end of turn ability that can get it into other lanes. This is important not just for Thena, but for versions where you are trying to get Fantasticar back in there. There are a bunch of things that make this deck tick, but being a really good 1-drop deck, having the strongest 1-drops in the game, means that you are very likely able to get early priority when it really matters for your active tech cards like Mercury, Mobius, and of course Stardust. Having priority with those cards can be really, really crucial. Stardust especially, having priority into the Ghost Rider turn, really, really important. So that's a lot of what Hydra Bob is doing, even though it sounds like he's kind of just a good stuff card. Like, we don't even run Fantasticar anymore. He's just a 1/4 and we have him.
So yeah, there's the fact that it's good stuff, as you say, but that's not it. Like, not only that. First, as you pointed out, like the first thing you need to do with Hydra Bob is identify what you're playing against. Like, do you want early prio? If yes, you never think about it, you just drop it. Against stuff like Ghost Rider, as you said, anything that will pop off early, like by 4 cost turns. But mostly, you also want him for two things, like when Surge procs having a 0/4 in hand, and for turn 6 plays where you put the thing first steps on 5. Because if you play him afterwards, you can just trigger the destruction of the thing and then get 4 points on another lane, you know? Flexibility and hard to pinpoint where your points will end up, or harder at least.
Black Cat, a little bit of a fringier core card, to be honest with you. Of the 1-drops, she's the biggest one, but she's also the one that's like most likely to mess you up in various ways. Games, for example, where I have a Surge that I want to play, and I draw Black Cat on 2, and you just have to choose between what you actually value in that matchup, and she forces that choice upon you. But at baseline, everything about Hydra Bob is basically true about Black Cat. Outside of the move, 1/5 is a good number to have access to.
Yeah, and for me, two main reasons to play Black Cat. The first is that I have the best variant and like the best split you could ever wish for. So I had to have it. But to be very serious, let's put it this way, I think it's the least core of the core cards. It forces you into awkward turn 2s. If like the worst case scenario is you draw a run 2, right? If you have Surge in hand, let's say. But once again, it's up to identifying whether you need the early points or not, because you don't always need the 5 points on board on turn 5 and 6, right? Or if you really need your Surge to be down on 2, but let's say if I draw on 2, I have Surge in hand, I didn't draw Thena, or, you know, Thena is in my hand, which is even better, I'll just play her on 2, you know, have an awkward turn 3 potentially, but then I'll Thena Surge on 4 and, you know, the game's back on. But yeah, it's the least core of the core cards. It's just points. It's great when you get her on 6 with a Surge down and you have a 0/6, but you know, it's cube equity in a way in those scenarios because it's super hard to play around a 0/6, you know. But again, least core of the core cards.
I almost feel like there's nothing to say about Thena that people don't already intuitively grasp from this being an Invisible Woman first step stack. She costs 2, she gets quite big, she's very good. Am I missing anything? Is that just the whole deal?
That's it. Like when we'll get to Juggernaut, it's gonna start making even more sense. But you know, it's just a 2/6.
Yeah.
Like on turn 6, it's a 2/6 most of the time. So you know.
Yep. You just you turn 6, 2/6, you play it on 5, 2/9. You're just pretty happy with that most of the time. There are some interesting things where it's like, how much do I prioritize this? And would I be willing to, since I'm not an Invisible Woman First Steps deck that always does the, if you're not an Invisible Woman First Steps deck that's copying Invisible Woman First Steps, there's times when you turn 5 the IWFS in order to allow you to, on turn 6, only play 1 card, right? Like I've run into stuff like that, where it's like that ends up being the play that's supposed to happen. But basically, she kind of plays herself a lot of the time, and she's pretty good at it.
Yeah. Truly, that's it. Not much to say. Great card, lots of points.
Havoc's a little similar, except he's very much turn 6 guy. This is the guy you play with an Invisible Woman on the board. You play him as a 2/7. You play a Juggernaut. You go ha 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 ha, and your opponent gets sad. That's like, even with Thena, there's nuances too. Havoc, there's basically none. Correct?
Pretty much. Only difference being that, and I think that's where a lot of the points in this deck are, is just dropping him turn 5. Because in many situations, like, that's the thing, you know, just segue to your other videos, but this is one of those decks where Juggernaut was buffed for many intents and purposes. So, you know, sometimes playing just Juggernaut and a 1 on 6, you're more than happy. So getting 3 extra points from Havoc, good to go.
Yeah, the Juggernaut is a pretty big part of why this deck still makes sense because its carries are all twos, right? Like your final turn big guys are twos, and so Juggernaut is the exact same card as it was, except it also has just 2 more power. Surge is a card that we think is core, and yet of myself and Lowell and SafetyBlade, both me and Safety have cut this card at various points. I think it's likely that at least my cut is incorrect. Like, I want to cut the copycat to get her back in, basically. But one of the things that strikes me about this card is, like, we do run some cards where, like, that they just absolutely brick it. You get a Juggernaut, you get a Havoc, you get things like that, and you're just like, oh, I'm absolutely bricked on whether this card actually mattered. But the reason I want to keep it in the deck, I think, largely, is this deck really is hard up for turn 2 good plays that actually, like, do anything. And Surge is sort of the last man standing of those cards. I've actually gotten to the point of running Kate Bishop just because I want more, like, just good stuff to drop in this deck. I just, like, that's what matters to me. There is a sharp difference between the games where you have a 2-drop with this deck and the games where you don't. You are very often playing from behind in the games where you don't.
First, I agree. But second, it's also mostly about, information asymmetry and what she enables in that sense. Because to me, the main reason this deck, allows you to climb is simply that you create enough asymmetry to just win, like, absurd amount of times. Like, the win rate is absurd. I think Safety is around 70%. I'm around 70+% as well. It's like you queue into a game, and outside of Olympia, because then that was even more insane. But you pretty much know that 2 games out of 3 you're winning, and a lot of that is just information asymmetry, people not knowing how you distribute your points, people not knowing which flex cards you're running in this specific game. So yeah, I value that a lot. Like, having the 1 cost being 0 cost on turn 6 is insane. Having, like, a random 3/8 Stardust is insane. It's just too strong. I cannot cut it. For me, it's super core.
I think it probably is, but I gotta tell you, I didn't feel like I missed her that much. It was weird. Like, it's just sometimes when you're running hot, she doesn't actually do much, right? Like, when you're drawing all your things in the right order anyway, she's not actually needed. She's there to make it work when you're not doing that. Like, when you're not drawing your things perfectly, I think she's like a pretty solid floor raiser just by virtue of what she has as her effect. Like, she could just sort of bail you out of bad spots.
But see, that's the thing, is I feel like when you're not drawing your things, as you say, like, she raises the floor of the deck, so that's good. But when you are drawing them, she just makes you win more. So, like, there's no downside to it. It's just good. To me, it's core.
I'm pretty convinced that I was wrong to cut her, if that helps. Like, I am pretty convinced that I would be playing a deck that is 1 card off from yours right now, which is Mercury for Kate Bishop, who I actually was shockingly impressed with. And also, I didn't play against any move players, so, like, all right, what's this guy actually doing? Mobius core reflex. To me, core. I actually think he's core. I think he's core. Of course. Like, to me, a lot of what this deck is premised on is being a Mobius Stardust deck. Like, that's the point of it. And so, in as much as it might be easy for people to look at this and be like, oh, it's a tech deck. Mobius, he's a flex card. This deck exists because of him, I think.
Yes. This deck exists solely because of Mobius and Stardust. Your only goal is to prevent people from playing the absurd stuff. So, like, people cannot just Sarah you for free. People cannot Mr. Negative you. Like, those are decks that you would not beat on points. Like, you're not meant to. Mobius just says that they're not allowed to play, and that's it. You play fair or you leave.
By the same token, we should probably talk about her. I mean, there has been a lot of Hela running around. And in my view, decks like this are fighting the good fight, being Stardust decks instead of just like, I'm going to do my combo. And I will say, it's been noticeable, right? I ended my last tier list talking about how I was looking for a good Mobius Stardust list and that this was sort of the shape I was experimenting in, but I was kind of wondering if anyone could do anything better. And I think this is sort of the culmination of that, where it's like, this is the Mobius Stardust list that actually feels functional. And it takes a lot for it to feel functional, honestly. But just being able to be a deck like this and say, get out of here, degenerate thing that Stardust beats. Like, this card has been amazing. Just an absolute beast. It's not just Hela. It's randomly good against Brood. It's great on locations like Sinister London. You can just totally shut them off. The location that swaps cards, if you're ahead on it, none of their cards actually stay there. So Stardust, again, like, this is a card where, like, a lot of what makes it good is being able to do it with priority. And that is what this deck is able to do.
Exactly. And that's the thing that people don't think about. It's, you know, as you say, you shut down some decks, you know, Ella, Nimrod, all that stuff, Arnim, Zola, whatever. But locations, like Stardust is insane because of locations. The people don't realize, like, and people don't expect it. So two things. First, there's the obvious ones, you know, like the Sinister London, and what's the other one? Like the red Sinister that gives you 4 of each, whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about the bar.
Bars. Yeah. So anything that has Sinister in its name and is a location, okay? Stardust is great for that. And people just don't think about it because, first, it's not that obvious to predict. And second, I don't know, a lot of people are not familiar with Stardust just yet. The one you were talking about the cards get swapped, like the Lockjaw kind of location. People don't know. I keep getting 8 cubes on that because they just drop stuff in there, but it's like Stardust is looking at you, you know? Like nothing's
like for those who are not aware, what happens there is, and there are a couple of interactions worth going over. What happens on that location is if there is a Stardust face up on the board, cards get played there, shuffled in, nothing comes out. It just it is basically functionally Professor X unless there is some other way of adding stuff to the board, which there isn't because there's a Stardust there, right? You can't Jubilee or whatever because there's a Stardust there. You can't Dr. Doom or whatever because there's a Stardust there, so you're not getting any points on that. With the bars, I think there's a couple to point out. The Sinister London, you want to get your value out of Sinister London and then play Stardust. The same goes for Bar Sinister, because the goal, again, have priority, play Stardust so their plays on those locations don't work. There is another aspect to this, though, because we talk about how this card prevents like super outrageous combo strategies from being good. It also prevents super outrageous combo locations from being good. And I think that's like a really underrated aspect of what this card is doing for this deck. It's narrowing the range of your opponent's output, even in terms of a lot of the stupid games of Marvel Snap you see screenshots of are Bar Sinister games, are Sinister London games. Those are the kind of things that this deck is not very good at beating, but Stardust makes it better at beating those weird edge cases.
Exactly. I think the case has been pleaded, you know. Stardust, great card, top 5 card in the game.
It's weird because she didn't used to be, right? Like when they nerfed stuff, she got better because there was now no longer as much competition with her as a 4/7, if that makes any sense. That's what it feels like to me, at least, right? Like, it used to be there's a lot of competition because like there's stuff that's dramatically more points than her in a deck like this, like Fantastic-R, right? But now it's just like, I'll play a 4/7. I'm good. I'll play a 4/7. That's fine by me.
100%. But right now, I feel like the more I play it, the more I just see like the cube equity opportunities it brings as well. You know, might go down in 5-6 weeks when everyone knows how to play against it. But as it stands, even if it was a 4/6, I would play it 100%. If it was a 4/5, I would consider it, you know? So I think it's that good. It's absurd.
I don't know. Do we got to spend time on the 3/5 that doubles your, like, everyone knows what this card does. Everyone knows that it's good. She's great. She's a great card. Like, she's awesome.
Everybody hates her.
Yeah. But like we already been doing the unfair version. There's no prodigies in here. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a 3/5 that very often gives you 6 to 8 extra power. So very often looking at like a 3/13. Pretty good.
313 is a pretty good stat line, yeah.
Yep.
I would say so.
I mean, this guy's the devil, right? He just won't go away.
I mean, he is the unkillable Demon King, man. It's it is how it is.
It's the faker of Marvel Snap. That's
It truly is.
unbelievable. Yeah, he just wins. Like he just shows
He
up
wins
and
every
wins.
lane. It doesn't
Yep.
matter the lane.
Oh, I mean, this is another League of Legends reference. This is the guy who'll solo mid. You know, like this is
Definitely.
he is just amazing. And I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit for this because I was like, okay, Juggernaut 4/5. Now what he goes with is whatever deck has the best 2-cost carries. This is the deck with the best 2-cost carries. Like it's just that's what it is. And yeah, it turns out this card's effect is still really, really dumb. It's just less. There are less decks that can afford to do it because you want to do stuff in this space with cards that are cheap and can carry a lane or can meaningfully contribute to a lane. And there aren't a lot of decks that can do that. And this deck is probably the only major one that can right now.
I'm trying to think if I've seen it run successfully in the past few days in other shells, but
The
I would
Wolf
definitely.
Merlin stuff, I think, can do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, fine, but that deck doesn't exist against us because of Mercury, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, it's definitely one of the 2 or 3 best decks in the game to still run Juggernaut, which is why it is so strong. Because, I mean, let's get real. This is one of your 2 main win conditions. And it's now 5 points, which means, you know, in a lane by itself, it can contest a lot. If you just have a random spider pig that's been sitting there since turn 1, suddenly the opponent needs 8 to beat it. Not every deck has 8 running around and not contesting your other locations. So I don't know. It's just silly. I don't think there's too much to say about it.
This is a card that's sort of in my head synonymous with SafetyBlade. Like this is just like it's just and I to be clear, I am genuinely a fan of the character, The Thing. So there's an inherent draw of this deck to me that it does well with Thing First Steps. One of the things that is really, really apparent to me, though, is that a lot of the skill expression in this deck is when to invest in making sure he gets his full lane bonus and snapping your Hydra Bob out of those lanes because this is not a deck that has a lot of cards. You're usually playing 6 or 7 cards on the board. And so committing to Thing getting his bonus is a huge commitment that usually requires Juggernaut in another lane to bail you out of, right? And that specific combination of end games is very often what you're looking at in this. This is your only card that's like, I'm winning this lane. You could play me on turn 5, and then Juggernaut wins another lane.
Basically, yes. And yes, I think Safety was clearly the first person ever since the card came out to just be a huge believer, make it work right away, and so on. And right now, to me, this is like it's a 5/12 that kills a Cerebro, you know? I love it. Like, what can I say? But yeah, as you said, a big part of like the skill expression in a deck will come, well, first, knowing when you're just putting it down to be a threat and you never plan to ever fill the lane. And second, but that will mostly be, well, in the core, there's Hydra Bob, but in the flexes, we'll talk about it after. But there are ways to just make it less predictable or give it more flexibility as well. And the card is just insane. It works especially well in this current meta because the things that will stay under 8 are generally the ones you want to kill. Like if you kill like the first Victoria, if you kill a Cerebro, you know, so it's just perfect. actually. Like if you added power to it, I think I would like it less right now. Because like at 5'9" or 5'10" on the first proc, it would limit my good targets. But as it is, it's great.
Flex spot number 1, Spider Ham, another sort of SafetyBlade signature. This card could probably be a lot of things, I think. Like, pretty much anything meaningfully disruptive in some way. A Korg or whatnot, like an Iceman. They're probably a little worse, but I gotta tell you, Spider Ham, absolute magnet for hitting my opponent's hood demons. Just he loves doing that. And so, believe me, if you've got ideas for replacements, I'm all ears.
So why Spider Ham as like the main flex over other things? It's just information. Again, like mostly you're trying to play on cube equity with this deck because most of the games you win them. If you can win them on turn 2 because you hit a null and you know you've won, done, you know? Or just first knowing what you're playing against because you don't want to invest heavily into the early against every deck, as we discussed before. So yeah, just information and good cube equity. Could be a lot of things. Korg, I wouldn't. My main alternative would be Ghost Spider. I think Ghost Spider is like an incredible deck card in non-move decks right now. It's just not explored yet, I think.
No,
But
that sounds
one
awesome.
cost,
Yeah, I'm immediately sold. Like, that's exactly the kind of thing that nobody plays around, that you can just blow someone out with, and it's a 1/3.
and that's the thing. Like, you want to think about something disgusting, think about a turn 5 thing first steps into a turn 6 that's like a Ghost Spider, Hydra Bob, and Juggernaut. I mean, where are the points, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's 8 cubes. That's what it is.
I'm going to make that change. I'm just letting you know right now that, like, this card is becoming Ghost Spider in my build, and the next card we talk about is becoming Kate Bishop.
Okay. I think the first one is a good call, the second one, not really.
I don't know, man. I just don't, like, I get why she exists. I get it. Like, move decks are good. She's good against the move decks. But at the same time, I feel like, and this might just be a personal thing, I am incredibly comfortable playing against move decks. It's hard for me to exactly explain why. It's partially because I play a decent amount of them, but I'm incredibly comfortable because it's the kind of thing where it's like, if I identify this correctly, I feel like I'm always at a 50-50. And by the same token, they're also always at a 50-50 to beat my ass, right? Like, if they get their reads right, I'm probably dead. But the inclusion of Mercury specifically to beat them, I mean, is this deference to Sparky's release and the fact that people are playing a lot of them now, or is your read that these decks are absolutely beast mode? Because when I play them, it feels like what Sparky did was intensify them. They're really good draws, now beat you by way more. But you're probably losing to them anyway. And I like, that's part of why I'm not as sold on Mercury as you guys are.
I think I'm the last one of the 3 that's sold on Mercury, but I think a lot of it also might have to do with servers. Like the thing is, I'm playing in the
you're on
Sizer
EU.
server.
You have to play Sizer.
Yeah. So
yeah.
like that's the thing. But Sizer, it's not the problem because I'm not sure how the matchmaking works, but I think yesterday afternoon we were both queuing pretty much the whole second part of the afternoon. We met once, you know, like I don't. He was 1, I was 2, you know. So
that's so weird.
And I actually was very happy because there was a poetic end to my first rank 1 climb. Is that we were tied on points and we got matched at that moment, and I won. And that's when I passed first. So it was beautiful. Poetic.
Yeah, my first rank 1, my only rank 1 was I rolled a bar with no name off of Merlin and won the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's still your pinned tweet, right? Yes. It's perfect.
Perfect. All skill, nothing. Like, I have the least legitimate rank 1 of all time. Like, it is so bad.
But to get to the
card,
the move deck,
yes.
Yeah. it's not just Sizer, it's like all the copycats he enables, right? Because since Sizer gets rank 1 with move, well, when he's not playing move, people play different things. And as soon as he plays move, honestly, I would say that a good 25 to 30% of the top 100 that I meet are playing move, be it the bounce, be it the Heimdall, doesn't matter. So I would also say that I'm pretty comfortable playing against move, but here we're running none of the cards that give you like the 100% win if you have the read. So at best, you end up in 50-50 situations. I'd like to make them 80-20, because then they have to guess my Mercury. And some games I might lose, but most of them it's just too hard to predict what you'll stop. If you get a good read on their Madame Web or pretty much any of their key cards, it's kind of game over. So yeah, I take the 80-20, and I'm happy enough with the performance of the card when I'm not playing against move, because again, it's a slot in your thing for steps.
Yeah.
So that you can move in the end and still, get a few points on another lane, another location. And I realize that in most situations, it's just 2 points. But as I was telling
You
you
win a
this
lot
morning,
of lanes
actually,
by 2 points.
that's the thing. Like you very rarely win by a mile. You win by inches with this, which is one of the main reasons why I feel like I've seen a few people playing it on the European server as well now, since I was queuing into a lot of them yesterday, and people just, I think, misplace their points, or just you need to play from turn 2, 3 at the latest. You need to be playing your turn 6 kind of thing. Like if you don't have your turn 6 game plan by turn 3, the game's gonna be hard for you. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Mercury. It just helps a lot. And the alternative flexes, like we talked about Spider Pig, we talked about Mercury. I think Ghost Spider is fantastic. I was running her instead of Mercury for a while, instead of Surge for a while. I run her instead of Spider Ham now, sometimes, instead of Black Cat. I think she brings a lot. Like the 1-3 stat line helps, but in this shell, it's mostly about just not knowing where the thing's first step will be, or not knowing where your 212, 210 Avok is going to be. So it gives you options. One that a lot of people are running as well, because I think it's still the main flex of SafetyBlade, is Copycat. But to me, it's like 3 cost is a lot, first thing, because I like to play my Avocs aggressively. I often Avoc on 5. You need, this is one of those decks where you kind of need to create your luck. You need to be confident that you're going to have a 4+1 on 6 if you Avoc on 5. And if you don't, you don't, they don't. So you still get a lot of retreats on turn 6. So good enough for me. But yeah, Copycat, to me, it's like I tried it quite a bit. It's great when you get null from a destroy deck, sure. But too many times it gets me something that's like and then I'm sort of playing like a 3-5 to 3-7 of value. I prefer my other flexes. Let's put it that way. Other flags that are worth trying and investigating. I think there's a case to plead for putting Zabu in instead of Spider Ham and having another 4 cost as flex. This, I do believe, Safety came up with it first, just to be clear. But I do believe this is a deck that can run Omega Sentinel as a 4/10.
I ran into him playing it. It didn't seem like it was very good, but it can, I'm sure.
To me, it feels like it's gonna be great on those games where people are really not don't know that you're running it first, and then they don't know how to. It's too late to react on it if you already misplaced your points, right? But then again, like on the games that I played it, the games you draw it on 6, you just rage quit. The games you draw it on 5, generally it's already too late. So it's one of the versions of the deck that you can run, but is it the best? I don't think so. It gives you one more, like, it brings the Zabu in, so it's going to lead to situations where you get Juggernaut and Stardust reduced as well, and that's great. But then again, then that feels more like Zabu just doing the Zabu, and you're forcing another 4 to justify it. I wasn't a fan. I think it's good. I don't think it's the best version.
I've got one more to ask you about.
Yeah.
This is what I ended up doing. And it was largely just because I hate skipping turn 2 in this deck so much. And having like extra Athena procs doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I can see it being really good as like Athena enabler. But, and this is going to sound weird, but in many, many games, Athena is just there to put a few points, right? And she's not like the main breadwinner. She's not winning you the game. So Okai to me makes it more of a Athena deck, if it makes sense. I'm afraid it might also bait you more into growing the Athena when you don't really need to. And okay, but this is very personal. Like, I bait myself a lot. Like, I'm horrible at that. So I just want to maximize points when I have the opportunity. And that's not how this deck works.
Yeah, like I would have wanted it to be Merlin, but we're the world's worst Merlin deck because all of our cards are only their effects, so we never want to flush them away or evolve them. I would have wanted it to be old Mr. Fantastic, but he got a hammer to the face. I would have wanted it to be any number of other things, but largely it's just, I hate skipping turn 2. I hate it. Like, it's so bad when you're like, because like you care so much about priority, right? And so like, what are you going to play on turn 2? A Havoc Athena? Come on. At least this is a 2/3. Like, I thought about Iron Patriot even, where it's just like, I don't think he makes any sense in this deck, but I just really hate losing the turn 2 battle.
If I had to use anything else, like if I had to get a 1 or 2 cost, because for me, if it's under 2, it's fine as well.
It would just be the other one.
I would go Spider. Yeah,
Sure.
I would just keep both Spider Pig and go Spider in.
That makes a lot of sense as well. But yeah, it's the same sort of issue. And I think that solves some of the Athena things too, just having additional ones that are reasonably statted. But yeah, it feels really bad to have to fully skip turn 2 in this deck. And so I went for like the most brute force thought process of like, let me go down the list of good 2-drops that can actually fit. That's what happened here. And that's how I ended up with Kate Bishop. It's definitely not just because I have like a sick ass split. It helps though.
The split, you know, there's a good case for saying that it's justifying the inclusion. Not my pick. I understand the reasoning though.
Well, that's why we're talking about your version of the list and not mine. That said, I mean, I still probably will play my version of it, or at least put it through its paces again, because it went very well for me when I started messing around with it. And I think through this conversation, I've probably gotten better at the deck. And I have a couple of new things that I want to test out in it. So I'm kind of thinking that like my version of this would be go Spider Kate Bishop over Mercury Spider Ham, and then we'll figure out what to do with that Mercury slot at some point. That's sort of where I'm at, I think. But largely the point is that this is a very powerful shell that it just never seemed to work for me until I got that smoothing in there, if that makes any sense. And maybe that's just the skill cap inherent to the deck, where it's like, this is a deck that has a pretty high skill floor, because if you're just playing stuff randomly, you're just not going to be able to do what this deck is asking you to do. But I still think that there might be some life left in the old Invisible Woman First Step shell. There is one card I want to talk about the absence of, though, and that card is Sunspot. What is it that makes you not want to be a Sunspot deck in this list?
Well, the main reason is first, you're rarely floating any energy, but second, then you become like a one cost deck. Like and Killmonger would just absolutely wreck you if you ever try to bet on it. And I'm using most of my one costs. Like Spider Pig is there for the activation. Like I barely care about the 2 points. He just keeps a slot busy for things first step. Hydra Bob is there for the flexibility that he brings, jumping lanes and so on. Black Cat is there because she's absurdly statted. But other than that, I don't want to be a one-cost deck, if that makes sense.
All right, so with that in mind, thank you so much for this interview, Lowell. Is there anything you want to tell people before we cut?
I mean, thank you for having me, first and foremost. Thank you for everything you keep doing, actually, for the community. Like, there's still like a few people around that have been here from the beginning, and it's like it's rough, honestly, to stick with the game for such a long time when there are questionable decisions. Like we don't all agree with what is done. So yeah, just thanks for the time you put in. Thanks for letting me know what my opponents are going to be playing the first 3 days of the week, every single week, because they see your tweet. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much. I've been KMBest. He's been rank 1, and you've been phenomenal.
For a very short time.